Hello everyone, hope you're all doing good. Some time ago, I shared these dot mandala trinket trays with a group of friends of mine who also happened to share the love for this craft. A lot of them wanted to know where I bought these base trays from. And when I told them that I actually make my own base trays, they got super curious about how they can create these trays for their projects. Um, so in today's video, I'm going to answer that question. I'll walk you through the entire process step by step and show you exactly how you can make these trays from scratch. So if you're also someone who's interested, then please stay tuned and join me on this journey. Let's begin with an introduction to the list of materials you will need for creating these beautiful trinket trays. For our products, we use Birla white cement, which is readily available in our area. Then we need two containers, one to measure water, and this is the same container we mix the cement in. Second cup is optional, but I like it because it's easier to measure the dry ingredient, that is the white cement. This way you have a better control over the proportions of water and cement, and it becomes easier to put it into the water. Then you will need plain tap water, a rag to clean your hands and the mess around, which will happen for sure. Then a measuring scale. You could make the trays without it, especially if you're making one or two trays, then it is not necessary to invest in a scale like this. But if you're planning to create multiples or you're interested in this craft, then it is advisable to have a scale because there are many benefits to it, which we will discuss as we go ahead in this series. And then you need some molds, whatever shape or product you want to cast, you can take the molds of those. Then you need a little stick or a skewer. It should be blunt, nothing too sharp, because we will be using it with the mold to remove the air bubbles. And we do not want a sharp stick to poke or damage your mold. Next up, we'll be creating trinket trays in two sizes, a small and a bigger one. Alright, in this section, we are going to measure our two main ingredients, that is white cement in our case. You can use grey cement as well, and plain tap water. After a lot of test and trials and lot many cracked trays, we have arrived to a ratio that works best for us. And that ratio is 2 is to 1. That is 2 parts of cement and 1 part of water. If we talk about this in numbers, then if you're taking 100 grams of cement by weight, then you will need 50 grams of water by weight, not by volume. We are not taking our measurements in terms of volumes. This is all by weight. In case you do not have a scale, then you can take 1 cup of cement and half cup of water. Try and mix it if you're able to achieve the consistency that you will see in the video later. Again, you will have to test and try it. That is why we love working with scale because it keeps our measurements consistent. For this video, we'll stick to the weighing scale. So we'll take 2 parts of cement and 1 part of water. As we are creating two trinket trays today, I think we should be good with 120 to 125 grams of cement. To keep the calculations easy, I'll take 120 grams of cement and 60 grams of water. So let's begin with our measurements. So I'll take the first container. This is going to be the container where I'll mix the final mixture. And inside this only, we'll measure around 60 grams of water. So let's prepare the scale, put the container, tear it, and now we need to pour around 60 grams of water. There's no hard and fast rule that it has to be exact 60 grams. The idea is to stick to the proportion of 2 is to 1 as close as possible. So we have 61. I think we are good with it. Next, we need to measure our cement. For that, I'm taking the second container. Prepare the scale, tear it, and now we need 120 grams of white cement. You could actually add the cement directly into the container with water, but I personally prefer to measure it separately because then I don't have to worry about adding extra cement into water by mistake. Therefore, having these two ingredients measured in separate containers, I feel provides me a better control. Like I said, it's a personal preference. You can always measure both of these ingredients in the same container, whatever is easier for you. I wonder if I have enough cement. Uh, okay, we have exact 120 grams. Good. We are done with the scale. Let's keep it aside. So now we have 60 grams of water and 120 grams of white cement as per our ratio, which is 1 part water and 2 parts of cement. For the mixing process, it's recommended that you wear a mask and gloves for safety. Personally, I like adding cement into the water instead of pouring water over the cement. This way, I feel the mixing process becomes a lot easier, and somehow I also feel that it also reduces the amount of cement dust that rises up, which you might otherwise end up inhaling. Again, this is a personal preference. Please feel free to choose either way, whichever works best for you. So I'm adding a little cement at a time, and right now you can see it's too runny and we don't want that. So in case you're not using a weighing scale, you can check the consistency here and try to match it for your own mix that you will be creating. You can also add the entire cement quantity in one go. There is nothing wrong with that. It's just that I find it easy this way. I've been repeating this phrase, I'm sorry, but that's how it is. Now you can see it is still runny. So we will be adding more cement to it. And as and when we add more quantity, you can see the mixture is becoming thicker. So mix it, be gentle and be patient. Now you can also see air being released in the form of bubbles. You cannot actually avoid them completely because it's the cement and water doing its job. But if you go slow, you can always minimize them. We want as few air bubbles as possible because once the cast dries, these bubbles turn into small cavities on the surface. Once you've added the entire quantity, mix it thoroughly for a good 1 to 2 minutes. And as you keep mixing, you will also notice that the bubbles they start to reduce. Be sure to scrape the material off the walls and the corners of the container so that you end up with a smooth mix. Any chance you're bored by now? Here's a quick suggestion. Put your favorite music or show while you work. It will definitely make the process more enjoyable. So keep mixing, mixing, and this is the consistency that we are trying to achieve. If you read online, they say it's a pancake batter like consistency. So I'm not sure, but it does look like idli batter to me at this stage. So this is the consistency you're trying to achieve in case you're not using the scale to measure your ingredients. For the purpose of this video, I'm keeping everything in real time with minimum editing so that you can see the entire process that I follow. So in case you feel it's too slow, uh, please go ahead and fast forward or skip to the next section, whatever works best for you. All right, we are finally done with the mixing process. And next we'll move on to the pouring part in the next section. As mentioned earlier in this video, I'm using these two molds today in two different sizes. If you take a closer look, you will notice that both these molds have grooves. Let me show you the ready trays for a better idea. Now, these are the final products from these two molds, and the grooves in the molds actually create this raised edge that you see on the final casting. Also, it is very common to get these tiny cavities which are formed because of the trapped air in any mold. This tray still has very minimal amount of bubbles, but in larger casts, you might see more cavities, and that's completely okay. However, if you take enough care during the pouring process, these cavities can be minimized to achieve a smoother finish. However, it is still best to expect some level of bubbles even after you follow the entire process and embrace them as a part of a handmade product. To minimize cavities, we need to get rid of as many trapped air bubbles as possible, and that's done by tapping the mold after pouring the mixture. So what I do is um, pour the mixture in small quantities at a time. I do not fill the mold to the top and then tap. Adding the mix gradually allows the air bubbles to rise to the top, and that results in less imperfections in the final product. Let's start the pouring process. Give the cement mix a quick stir. I'm going to add 1 scoop of mix to each mold, and let's start with the smaller mold first. And here the tapping game begins. As I tap, you will notice a lot of air bubbles surfacing at the top. And the more you tap, the smoother your final tray will be. So tap, tap. It is very much possible that you might be tempted to skip this step, but trust me, it's worth it. So for now, keep tapping. Tap, 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 tap. Tap as much as you can. Here's the skewer we saw in the list of materials we need. To achieve a smooth finish, we need to get rid of the air trapped in the grooves of the mold. So this skewer is perfect for that. Gently, I'm going to move the skewer along the edges so that the trapped air can rise to the surface. I cannot stress enough that please be gentle with this. Don't poke or damage the mold. All we want is to help the trapped air escape. That's it. That is why, see, can you see the air bubbles coming out? That is why in the beginning of the video itself, I said that whatever stick or skewer you're using, make sure it is not too sharp, it's just blunt. And once you're done with this process, please tap the mold. Let's do it once more, very gently, and tap the mold once again. See, more bubbles can be seen. Idea is to have the top surface as smooth as possible because any cavities on the backside are easier to get rid of by sanding, or they can be covered by the foam sheet or a cork sheet. So the focus is on the top. Therefore, the extra minutes invested here in tapping will actually save a lot of time and effort at the stage of sanding later on. So that's why tap, 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 tap as much as you can. I'm sorry for the bad lighting. The sun has decided to play hide and seek today. Let's follow the same process with the second tray as well. Let me add some more mix to it. Tap, 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 tap. If you feel you have added extra, just scoop it out and add it later on. Tap again. Take the skewer or the stick that you're using and repeat the process exactly the way we did with the smaller mold. Be gentle. See, bubbles. Cute they look, but we don't need them. They can just go. And the eternal tapping continues. Tap, 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 tap. Let me say this again. Please feel free to fast forward or skip if you want to. Else stick with me to experience the time, effort, and patience that's required to make these little trees in real time. By the way, people who create concrete products in bulk usually use a vibrating machine to remove the trapped air. So what they do is they keep their mold on top of this vibrating machine while pouring the mixture. So that vibration removes a lot of air out of it while the mixture is being poured. So that's very efficient, but at the same time expensive too. That is why tapping is the way to go for us, at least for me. Tap, 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 tap some more. Let's add more to this mold. And then you know the game, tapping. Tap it, tap it, tap it. With the tapping, not only it removes the bubbles from the bottom part, which becomes the top after demolding, but it also keeps the backside a little smoother. Let's move the skewer once again. See, some more bubbles. Sometimes I really feel, is it me who is creating all these bubbles or is it really the trapped air? Whatever the case may be, it has given me better results, so I am not complaining. I do not mind investing some time tapping because usually I have the music on and it does not feel tiresome at all. Another important thing I would like to mention here is that the proportion that we have taken for this project is 2 parts cement and 1 part water, right? But just because this works for me does not guarantee that it will give everybody the exact same results. It may work out or it may not. There are chances your trays might end up cracking or not setting properly. That's because there are several factors at play, especially the climate in your area. For example, the way I will cure a tray during a rainy season is very different from how I do it on a hot summer day. That's why I suggest that take this ratio of 2 is to 1 as a starting point and then adjust it if you need to. Because trial and error is really the way to go ahead with this craft, or any craft for that matter, is what I personally believe. And once you have figured out what works for you and also what does not, make a note of it. That way, you will have a recipe of your own or formula, whatever term you would like to use, to recreate these products in future. I think we are done with the small one. Let's take the bigger one and finish it. Another quick tip, try to fill the mold all the way up to the rim without letting it overflow. Because the cement, as it cures, it naturally shrinks. So if the mold is not filled properly, the final thickness of your tray will be less than expected. And if it ends up too thin, there is a higher chance that it will break easily when you put it to some use. That is why it is best to make the tray as thick as the mold allows you to. So try to fill it till the top. Even if it overflows, that's okay. You can always remove it. But we need the proper thickness for the tray. Since we used a weighing scale to measure the ingredients, the mix prepared is the exact quantity that's needed to fill both the molds. And that means there's no wastage at all. That also means less cement going down the drain once you are done with it. By the way, I no more wash the remaining mixture down the drain. I will try and make a video on the jugaad that I have figured out. It's weird, but it works. And now we have to fill the mold. Let's add in the last quantity that we have. And then tap, 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 tap. Get rid of the bubble. Tap, 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 tap. Final stir to the mixture. I'm really not used to making videos and often tend to go out of the camera frame. So please ignore these technicalities. Tap some more. Now, do you see how much time goes into making these simple trays? Imagine if you have to make them in bulk. Let's clean the edge. Tap, tap, the final tappings. Let's get done. Little stir, tap. Scrape off the last bit of the material left in the container and just add it to the mold if there is enough space. And with this last round of tapping, we are finally done with the pouring and the tapping process. These molds are ready to be left alone to dry, set, and cure. Another important point to keep in mind is the surface where you will leave your molds to set. Whatever surface you choose, make sure it is completely leveled, no slope or taper in any direction. Otherwise, the trays or the molds will set unevenly. For example, one side of the tray may turn out thicker, whereas the other side will be thinner. Not only does this affect the look of the final product, but if you try to even it out at a later stage, it will take a lot of sanding and extra efforts to do that. So always try to place your molds on a level surface, whether it's a table, the floor, or even a windowsill, like in my case. Uh, Also, avoid leaving these molds at this stage. Uh, Avoid them from direct sunlight or in areas where there is too much wind or air, especially if you are living in a hotter climate. What happens is because of the sun or the air, the water will evaporate faster and that will make the cement to set quicker than required, and that can lead to cracks or compromised strength of these trays at a later stage, because we want the cement to set slowly. So keep it in a place which is away from sun, away from hot winds or even fan. Just leave them somewhere where you will not be touching them for at least 24 hours. So you will need to keep them at a place for 24 hours before you can actually demold. Before that, try to not touch them and just let them be. So this was the measuring, mixing, and the pouring process. I really hope it was helpful to some extent. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. I will make another video where I will demold these trays and we'll see if there will be cavities like this or a cleaner finish like this one. Honestly, both are equally good. It will be unfair to keep an expectation of 100% perfection as these are handcrafted products. However, the fact that these are handmade should not really stop us from giving our best effort. So, with this note, I will end this video here. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. And till then, bye bye and take care.